numerous homes across the picturesque village, forcing residents to abandon their property.
Oh no, not again. Sirens wail across central Texas. Streets vanish beneath a growing tide. Families cling to rooftops. In San Angelo and across Tom Green County, homes are underwater. Cars are floating, and an unstoppable flood wave is ripping through communities like a force of nature. What started as scattered thunderstorms has now escalated into one of the most dangerous flash flood emergencies Texas has faced in recent memory. It's not just rain, it's history unfolding, and its deadly dot in the past 24 hours. A devastating wall of water has surged down the Guadalupe River, and it's showing no signs of slowing. What began as steady rainfall quickly turned into a deluge, overwhelming everything in its path. Rainfall totals that usually take months to accumulate came crashing down in just a few short hours, shattering every forecast, every expectation, and every margin of safety. Storm drains overflowed, riverbanks vanished, and as the Guadalupe swelled past its limits, it carried trees, debris, and even parts of roads along with it. Across the region, over 10 inches of rain have dumped from San Angelo to Kerrville, drenching towns that were unprepared for this level of fury. In some neighborhoods, streets turned into rivers. In others, rivers swallowed the streets entirely. What was supposed to be a weekend of backyard barbecues and 4th of July celebrations quickly collapsed into panic and chaos. Sirens replaced fireworks, rescue teams replaced party guests, dotted lolling areas. Families had minutes, sometimes seconds to act. One moment, they were watching the rain through the window. The next, they were rushing to move furniture, grabbing children, and fleeing toward higher ground. Entire communities were forced into sudden evacuation. Local officials scrambled to open emergency shelters, volunteers grabbed canoes and trucks to help trapped neighbors, and all the while, the water kept rising fast and without mercy. Roads disappeared, bridges were closed, power outages spread across counties. The Guadalupe River, usually a symbol of calm summer tubing and lazy days, had become a violent force of destruction, testing not just the infrastructure of Texas, but the spirit of its people. This isn't just a storm. This is a regional crisis, and it's far from over. But let's step back. How did this happen? And why was no one truly ready? This wasn't a normal flood, not even close. It was the terrifying result of multiple forces colliding in perfect tand. Deadly SYNCHRONY. Dad started with the drought. For months, central Texas had been bone dry. The sun scorched the land day after day, baking the soil into something closer to concrete than earth. Fields cracked. Rivers shrank, grass turned to dust. When the rain finally came, it wasn't a blessing. It was a blessing, it was a shock to the system. The ground, hard as stone, simply couldn't absorb the water. It was like pouring gallons onto a tiled floor. The rain didn't sink, and it slid across the surface, accelerating downhill, collecting speed, volume, and force with every passing second. And then came the storm cells, large, slow-moving, and merciless. They hovered above the region like a curse, locked in place by stalled jet streams. Instead of passing through quickly, they parked themselves over towns, releasing wave after wave of torrential rain. Inch after inch filled and more. It didn't stop. Not for hours. Drainage systems that had handled decades of storms couldn't keep up. Everything backed up: culverts, storm drains, gutters. Water spilled over barriers and retention ponds, pushing its way into places it was never meant to go. Creeks that normally trickled gently through. Neighborhoods exploded into raging rivers, and rivers the Guadalupe, the Llano, the San Marcos grew into uncontrollable monsters. Wide, fast, unforgiving, in the blink of an eye. A dangerous feedback loop took hold. More rain meant more runoff. More runoff meant more erosion. And more erosion meant even more instability. The entire region had become a living, shifting hazard zone. This wasn't just nature out of balance. It was nature breaking loose by early morning. The National Weather Service had issued back-to-back flash flood emergencies, warning in bold, urgent tones. This is a life-threatening situation. Do not travel. Seek higher ground immediately. But for some, the warnings came too late. Kerr County has already confirmed multiple flood-related fatalities. Officials haven't released names, out of respect for families still trying to process the unthinkable. But even without names, the pain is everywhere. It lingers in the silence at roadblocks, where cars once passed freely. It shows in the eyes of rescue workers climbing out of boats, soaked to the bone, carrying more than just gear. And it's felt in every soaked doorstep where a family once gathered, now left with nothing but mud, broken furniture, and unanswered questions. Each life lost is more than just a statistic. It's someone's parent, someone's child, someone who thought they had more time. The water did not get kicked down doors. It took people by surprise, and it left heartbreak behind in its wake. Across the region, grief hangs in the air like the storm clouds that brought it. Vigils are being planned, communities are clinging to each other, offering meals, clothing, and what little comfort they can. First responders, though exhausted, continue the search hoping to find the missing, to offer closure where possible. And what's perhaps most terrifying is how fast it all happened. One moment, the world felt safe, familiar, peaceful. The next, it was swallowed by chaos. It's a brutal reminder that nature doesn't ask for permission and that in a matter of minutes, something beautiful can become deadly. Rescue operations have been nonstop. Emergency crews from all across Texas are out in boats and helicopters, pulling people from rooftops, trapped vehicles, and flooded homes. In neighborhoods once filled with laughter and fireworks, water now rises past windows, inside living rooms, furniture floats like driftwood. Outside, propane tanks, mailboxes, and even sections of fences are being swept away. In San Angelo, a city of nearly 100,000 people, the situation has spiraled into full-blown crisis mode. What was supposed to be a festive all-American 4th of July weekend has now become a living nightmare. Entire streets have vanished beneath muddy water. Roads that once led to schools, parks, and corner stores are now impassable rivers. The familiar grid of the city is gone, replaced by confusion, panic, and rising floodwaters. Cell phone videos are flooding social media, showing stunned residents paddling canoes and inflatable rafts through neighborhoods they've called home. For decades, mailboxes barely poke above the waterline. Street signs are half submerged. Cars sit stranded, water up to their windows, some even floating and bumping into each other like forgotten toys. Power is out in large sections of the city. Transformers failed one after another as floodwaters reached electrical boxes and underground lines. By nightfall, entire blocks were left in total darkness, the only light coming from flashlights and the eerie glow of emergency vehicles. Schools have been closed indefinitely. Businesses, some already recovering from past storms, have shuttered. Once again, this time unsure if they'll reopen. Local officials have declared a state of emergency, and emergency shelters are filling fast with families who had no time to pack, no time to plan, just grab what they could and run. San Angelo, a city used to heat waves and dry summers, now finds itself underwater, caught in the crosshairs of a storm it never saw coming. What was meant to be a weekend of fireworks and freedom is now a weekend of fear, survival, and resilience. Meanwhile, in nearby Kerrville, the situation has grown just as dire, if not worse. The mayor has issued an official disaster declaration, a move that now unlocks critical state-level emergency support. National Guard units are on standby. Supply trucks are being rerouted, and search and rescue teams from across Texas are being deployed to help a city overwhelmed by rising waters. Roads in and out of Kerrville are completely impassable. Highway signs barely peek out over the current. Bridges that once served as lifelines to neighboring towns are now submerged or structurally compromised. Even emergency vehicles are being rerouted, forced to take long, uncertain detours to avoid washed-out routes. At the center of it all is the Guadalupe River, the lifeblood of the town, known for its scenic beauty, fishing spots, and tranquil flow, but not today. Today, it's unrecognizable, swollen far beyond its banks. The river has reached one of its highest levels ever recorded, surpassing the infamous flood of 1987, a disaster still burned into the memories of every long-time resident. Back then, the '87 flood was the storm people used to measure all others. Homes were lost, lives were changed, and scars remained long after the water receded. For decades, it was the worst anyone had ever seen. But now, that record is broken, and the most chilling part, this flood isn't over. Not yet. The rain continues. The ground is saturated, and the storm system is still stalled over the region. Officials worry the worst could still be ahead, that more neighborhoods could be lost, that another surge could come with little warning. For the people of Kerrville, it's no longer about breaking records. It's about surviving them. As of this report, over 7 inches of rain fell in just 6 hours across parts of the region. That's not just heavy rain, it's catastrophic rainfall. The kind that transforms creeks into violent torrents in minutes. The kind that sweeps away cars, collapses bridges, and steals lives. Authorities have pleaded with residents to stay inside, avoid travel, and never attempt to drive through standing water. But still, rescues continue, and heartbreak deepens. Some residents waited too long to leave, not realizing how quickly their homes would become islands. Others have left behind everything: photos, pets, keepsakes just to survive. Emergency shelters have opened across the region. In San Angelo, a local Walmart has turned into a temporary sanctuary. Families are huddled in the aisles, blankets wrapped around soaked shoulders, children clutching stuffed animals, trying to understand why everything they knew is now underwater. Volunteers hand out bottles of water and warm meals. The community is coming together, but the road ahead is long as water levels continue to rise and fall unpredictably. Local officials are warning that this is just the beginning. The ground is saturated and more storms are in the forecast. Even light rainfall in the coming days could trigger new flash floods or mudslides, especially in areas where the soil has eroded or shifted from the storm surge. And make no mistake this, disaster isn't just about flooded homes or broken possessions, it's about the entire backbone of daily life: infrastructure, mental health, long-term recovery, and, ultimately, survival. Bridges that once connected neighborhoods, hospitals, and schools have collapsed, washed out by the sheer force of floodwaters. Some hang half-broken, steel supports jutting into the air like open wounds. Roads have cracked open, swallowed by erosion from beneath. Sinkholes are forming. Pavement that once felt permanent is now split and crumbling. Water and power systems are under immense strain. Sewers have overflowed. Entire sections of the grid have gone dark. Emergency responders, brave men and women who have worked without sleep for days, are stretched to the limit. They're doing their best, but the sheer scale of the disaster is pushing every boundary of manpower and equipment. And then there's the toll you can't see on a map or measure in inches of rainfall. The emotional toll. As the adrenaline fades, shock sets in. People who escaped with their lives are now left to process what they've lost: their homes, their routines, their sense of safety. Children are confused. Parents are trying to stay strong, even as they silently panic over what comes next. Shelters are filled with stories of near escapes, sleepless nights, and moments when it all felt like too much. People are exhausted, but they're also resilient. Neighbors are checking on each other. Volunteers are showing up with warm meals and dry blankets. Strangers are becoming lifelines, and across the flood zones, even in the deepest hardship, you can see it the quiet strength of people who refuse to give up. The storm may have taken a lot, but it didn't take everything. One woman, standing in waist-deep water outside her trailer, looked into a news camera and said, "We've lived here all our lives. We've seen storms, but nothing like this. It took everything we had, but thank God we're alive. That's what matters now. Live safety, recovery." So if you're watching this from outside Texas, please take this seriously. Flash floods are fast, violent, and unforgiving. Don't assume you'll have time. Don't try to drive through that puddle. It might be a death trap. Turn around. Don't drown. And if you're watching from Texas, especially in or near San Angelo Kerrville or the Guadalupe River Basin, listen to emergency updates. Check on your neighbors. Stay home if you're safe. Leave immediately if you're not, because this story isn't over. And every decision you make in the next few hours could save your life for someone else's. Our hearts are with every family affected by this disaster, with every rescue worker in the field, with every child wondering when they'll sleep in their own bed again. We'll continue bringing you updates as this crisis unfolds. Please stay safe, stay alert, and stay strong. Texas, thank you for watching. If this story moved you, please share this video to raise awareness. And don't forget to subscribe. We'll be back soon with the latest as this emergency continues to evolve.